Our girl Nina is taking charge in the final episodes of the OA. We finally know what's happening with the house, kind of, and what's going on with this third dimension. Stay tuned as we break down the season finale in episode 7.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
What's up, guys? We made it to the season finale of the OA. I am Anna K. Thomas. I'm your host for tonight, but I am not alone. Joining me is my girl. She's a diehard OA fan, and she binged the entire second season before you got to episode 2. I know it. Welcome, Lauren Hubbard.
Thank you.
Hi. And then joining us, she is a writing force and a comedian who always keeps me honest and just knows what's up with every single episode. Welcome, Erika Edwards.
What's up, party people?
All right, guys, so we're going to be talking about a lot today. We have got the answers to our house. Our boy Homer kind of remembers what's happening to him, although a little bit late. And we've got a third dimension to talk about. But first, I want to hear your guys' overall thoughts on episodes 7 and 8 of OA Season 2. What'd you think, Lauren?
I was very pleased. All of our questions were finally answered. Well, I may have one or two, but it leads you into possibly a season 3. And I'm just so glad that now we can talk about you guys' predictions.
Yes, Erika.
Kind of the same. I really enjoyed it. It wasn't like too wanky or whatever, even though, you know, the flowers, interesting. But yeah, overall I loved it, and it did kind of wrap things up in a way that was really good, and then, you know, leading you towards season 3. So I think they did a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get into episode 7, properly called Nina Azarova, and our first sort of topic we're going to get into is Prairie becoming Nina. So she really steps into Nina's life and her body, and she ends up meeting Elodie in this episode, who helps her in this transformation. So what did you guys think about Prairie finally stepping into the life and role of Nina to get to what she needed to achieve?
I was happy because, you know, Dr. Roberts told her, you're suppressing her. How can you expect HAP to be any different if you won't, you know, if you're being a hypocrite? So I was finally glad that we got to see the real Nina and get to experience, she has a, you know, an accent. She has this whole other life. So she smokes. No one knew she smoked. And actually she was telling HAP, so I'm guessing HAP actually suppressed Dr. Percy because remember, he couldn't remember anything in his lifetime. Nina had to remind him of everything. So I really liked she fully embodied her.
Mm-hmm. Erika?
Yeah, I really liked that she, you know, she embodied her. Although I was still I'm still not clear on, like, was that her just accessing Nina's memories and stuff? Or was it actually Nina? And, you know, and so, like, is she talking to Prairie? Like, how do your multiple personality things... whatever, if you're in someone. So, yeah, so I do feel like maybe in season 3, they'll give us a little bit more insight into that. Like, yeah. I like that Elodie talked about integrating, and, you know, because it would be barbaric to kind of suppress that person and make them sleep, and then they suddenly wake up and, you know, and their lives have totally changed. Mm-hmm. But I'm not clear as to, like, when one person's talking, is the other person asleep? Like, how are you integrating?
See, this is why I like Erika Edwards on our panel, you guys. She just always finds the holes and keeps it real.
Well, no, like, I really liked it, but then part of me the whole time, to me, I felt like she was accessing Nina's accent and her memories and stuff. But for some reason, I, in my heart, felt like it was still OA the whole time, just kind of, I'm cool Nina now, as opposed to actually being Nina, wondering, like, well, where have I been this whole time, you know? And why have I been asleep or whatever?
Well, what I thought was interesting is how they kind of explained it, and this might be jumping to episode 8, but it's answering the question kind of, is how they were saying that once all the dimensions intersect. So when one thing happened in Nina's life, something very similar happened in Prairie's life. So I guess it's kind of the same person, but they might have different personalities.
Exactly. I mean, no, I agree with you on that part, but my, like, literally at that moment, when she's
one
smoking a cigarette, is Prairie like, you know, I hate to smoke in her head and we can't hear her? You know what I mean? Like, that is my question, really, like, just the dynamics of it. And, you know, and maybe this is true of people who actually do have split personalities. Mm-hmm. Like, is the other personality, like, watching you from afar, like, look, you know I don't like that, or what? Right. That's my curiosity to Brit. Let us know next season.
Okay, this question is specifically for Erika because you like to find the holes and things. Were you surprised to see Elodie and see her in Nina's dimension still, because it's the same dimension that she was with Hap, and then she jumped, but now she's back. So how did she jump without her little cubes?
Okay,
And
because
what
as
happened?
I told you last week,
Thank you.
it's not that hard to make them little dolls. And she like made some dolls wherever she was and jumped back. Like, that's what I think.
I have a still for you to show you later of the big cubes in the season finale, because I was like, Erika has to be impressed by this. Like, if the little ones didn't impress you,
Okay,
I was like hoping.
I'm impressed, but it's called like mechanics. Like, he hired somebody to make a bigger machine. I'm impressed for sure.
I cannot.
You know, it's not like Picasso's David or anything, but I am impressed.
Okay.
I am impressed for sure. Like, I think it's cool, but at the end of the day, it's like, as Lauren brought up last week, it's like Transformers, which we do have. So, while impressive, and they're doing the dance, I thought that was awesome. But it's still like just a big transformer.
But I agree, okay, because if she did jump when, you know, and died or got poisoned, whatever, in Hap's apartment or room, whatever, how did she end up in the same exact dimension, but alive and healthy with Prairie?
I know. She jumped again, I guess, or where did she go?
That's what I'm
It
wondering.
was just a little confusing.
She definitely had to jump because the police came and her body was limp. But I guess what I'm like, how
But then
did
again,
she get
remember,
back?
we don't know that she necessarily died. Like, it wasn't like Prairie where like, oh, you jump back and you're
Right.
underground buried. No, maybe she was in the hospital. Like, they kind of left us hanging there. So theoretically, if she was like comatose, she could have just come back. Or, I mean, you're absolutely right. It's kind of like a thread that's kind of unclear. I definitely feel like wherever she jumped to, she clearly has the ability to jump. She has the ability, although other people don't seem to control where she goes.
Right.
That's the impression I get.
Right. It also reinforced the idea that she knew about OA before meeting Hap. Right? Or when she was meeting Hap, she knew about the OA because she was advising her as if she's known her forever.
Well, because Hap talked about her so much.
Right, because he's obsessed.
Yeah, she even said, you're the one he's obsessed with. So I think she may felt like she knew her, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you bring up a good point because the way she was talking to her was very much the same language similar to like the FBI agent guy. Like they were put here for a different purpose.
Oh, right. Where was he?
Yeah, I don't know. I thought he was going to pop up like... I thought he was going to be like holding the door
They couldn't afford
Island or whatever. I was
nah, he's dead.
I was like, okay, so yeah, I don't know what happened to him, but very much like him, that's how her language felt to me when she was talking to OA. Like, you know, like she was put here for a different purpose.
Right.
But, you know.
As part of Prairie's transformation into Nina, she also gets into it with Kareem, and they sort of split paths. How did you guys feel about her? It took us halfway through the season to find Kareem and OA, and for them their paths to converge, and now they're apart again. Did you feel any type of way about that?
Yes.
Lauren.
Yeah, I definitely felt some type of way because if he really was on the hunt for this girl, and she said the first time, like, I know her, but it's as Buck. It's as a boy. So it's like, okay, you know, obviously she just came back. She's talking about other dimensions. I would be freaked out too. I would probably think, okay, you're crazy. What are you talking about? But he didn't actually take the chance to hear her out. He just got offended. He got really defensive.
Yeah, but he didn't actually call the police, and deep down, I think he knew the truth, that they're connected in some way, and the house did something to him, and...
I think he knew something was weird, and yeah, he didn't call the police, but it was just like, he should have gave her more of a chance to explain. I guess where he kind of like wrote her off is because she had that disc, and he's like, oh, now all of a sudden you have it, you know? But I didn't like the way he like just completely wrote her off, and then we never saw them, you know, see if they were going to bond or mend any type of friendship after that either.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed, I don't know. It just seemed a little bit like, you know, how you get mad in the moment. And he seems like that type of guy anyway. He's just going to be like, oh, and then like feel bad later, you know.
Right.
So, I mean, I didn't really take it too much to heart. Like, oh, no, you know, but I think he was a little harsh, I guess, at the moment, given like, dude, those hands were just grabbing you. So who's to say where she was?
Right?
You know what I mean? I was like, you know, the house was weird too. So why are you acting like? And I know that he seems to have a rational explanation with the mercury and stuff, but it's like,
And the gas, I
and
know.
the gas or whatever.
just-
It's like, well, if she was gassed too, then that's, come on, like, give us a break.
Okay.
So he seemed a little harsh to me, but I wasn't like, I don't know, like it seemed sort of surface. So I didn't take it to mean like, oh, okay, he was done with her. He just was angry at that moment, which seemed to be his character a little bit.
Got you. All right, I want to move on to Scott because I think he plays an interesting role in this episode. And we learned that his NDE involved Prairie and HAP being together in some way, peacefully. So, and we learn later on that that's the NDE in the finale that HAP jumps to. What I want to ask you ladies is, did you think, and I have a picture of it, I called it nasty HAP because when he pulled out the flower or the bud or the seed in Scott's brain, he eats part of the flower. And remember in predictions, you were talking about this, Lauren, about how I was like, there's something about this. Maybe he's going to make a farm of some sort, like brain farm.
You hit it on the head.
Yeah, and so I just thought this picture of him eating the flower was just like so gross, and it just shows like how far HAP goes for his experimentations and all of these things. So what did you guys think about the Scott going into the house and collapsing, and then HAP, basically killing him via the house and using him for his science projects, and the NDE involving Prairie and HAP in some other dimension? Did that surprise you guys at all, or were you kind of just going along with the ride?
You want to go?
Erica.
No, go ahead.
No, okay. Okay, well, what I did recognize in episode 7 was when Dr. Roberts was talking to Prairie or Nina and telling her in order to, live these different lives, some people are meant to be together. And she said, you cannot live without HAP. And she was like, she got offended.
Interesting.
Yeah. And she was like, I want to give you information, but I'm afraid you won't take it. So basically they have to survive with each other. And I thought it was strange that they made them married, but you kind of said you think he loves her. There's some kind of thing going on. So I wasn't surprised, but I was just like, oh, why?
Yeah, we'll get to this finale in a bit. But Erica, what do you think specifically about the Scott situation, the house, the brain flower?
Okay, so the brain flower part was like crazy. I was like,
okay, thank you.
Do you eat everything that's in your lab? Like, who does that? So I definitely thought that was like crazy and gross. Like, what makes you like?
Ugh.
Like because how many of us have seen Aliens? I was like, that could go in your body and turn into something and pop out of your stomach. Like, who knows what could happen? And you're just eating it. Like, at first I was like, you're not gonna even put it under a microscope first to see
What's up?
What's moving and whatever. And so that part, so that part was a bit of a disconnect to me because I was kind of like, well, if you eat it, how do you know it's then not going to grow out of your head and you're not going to end up in the water with your subjects? Like, there were so many different things where I was like, you don't have to eat everything.
Right.
Okay. I will just leave it at that. I think after, Elodie kind of talks about how, OA and HAP are joined in all these different dimensions. I was surprised because obviously you would think that he is, trapping her in every dimension because it seems that way. But I wasn't surprised that they were in yet another dimension together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
All right, last topic in episode 7. I want to talk about Kareem and this house. He goes to visit Ruskin. We find out that all the sketch artists drew 20 identical pictures of Kareem, these artists from all over the world. And we see Kareem realize that, like, oh, shoot, like, I actually am tied to this. And I thought my hands were clean, but I'm not. And we see his interaction with Ruskin. We see that Michelle is still alive, kind of. She's in a coma. And the grandma's there, and you're just like, what is going on? So what do you guys think about Ruskin and Kareem meeting and Kareem realizing that he basically had to go back to the house?
Well, the show confuses me sometimes because there's so many different dimensions. There's so many different cities and states. And I'm like, how did the grandma get over here? I thought she was in a completely different location. But what I did think was crazy was that all the sketches were his face. And it kind of made me think, okay, is he a bad person in this? But then when they kept talking, it's kind of like, we need you to save us type That's kind of what I got from it.
So confused, girl.
But it definitely was like, what? Because when he said all the sketches, I was thinking they were going to draw Hap's face. Like, that's what I was really thinking.
Oh.
Yeah, and I thought it was going to point all to him in his experiments. So when I saw Kareem's face on the sketch, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, I agree. Then also, like, kind of like with the warehouse thing, Ruskin has weird security. Like, I'm like, how is he just walking up in his house like that? Like, to be someone who's like, tech is your thing, I want a camera or whatever. But, I mean, he wasn't surprised that Kareem was there, so I do give him that. But it was just like the lamest security ever.
He drew Kareem to him. It was all a plan.
Yeah, I
so
agree.
So he was waiting for Kareem.
Him,
he was like, even when he said, Erika, when he was like, I didn't expect you to break, Nina out of, the Treasure Island, he knew.
I know it was a plan, but I still feel like you should have security in your home. But that's just me. Okay, so Kareem is like climbing and doing all this stuff to get in there, and it's like, just, there's no cameras, there's no nothing, there's no alarms, there's no whatever. Welcome, you're here. And so that part was kind of like, okay, I guess, I mean, he was expecting him, but it was like, you could put a camera up. I'm just saying, you could do that. I would have liked that. That's all I'm saying. I would have liked him watching Kareem on video. That would have been nice. That would have made sense to me. But okay. So beyond that little thing, I mean, it was really interesting that because I'm still thinking that Kareem is that brother or whatever to OA or something. So clearly he has a role to play, but I still feel like it's not defined, because even though the house is a portal, does it mean that Kareem is the only one who can use the portal or see the portal? So I don't know, but it was interesting that they kind of included Kareem in that, so it kind of draws Kareem deeper into the story since he wasn't in the last season. So I thought that was effective.
Definitely. All right, we got to move on to our season finale called Overview. But before that, Erika, anything to tell our fans who are watching?
Sure. Hey, guys, before we move on to our next topic, we just want to say thank you for making us the ESPN of TV Talk. And make sure that you subscribe, that you like, that you give us a thumbs up because you're here anyway. And give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. We're also on SoundCloud. Leave us a comment, and not just during the live, but after the chat, so we can respond to you later in the hiatus. And we love being a part of AfterBuzz, and thank you so much for allowing us to do the things that we love, and thank you for your support. So like, subscribe, comment, all that good stuff.
Definitely. And now the time you've all been waiting for, our season finale. It's called Overview, and I thought that was a very appropriately titled episode.
I agree.
So much happens, but it left me, I always say this, like my little peanut brain hurts after these OA episodes, because it gave me so much, and then it left us with so little. And we'll talk about it in predictions if there's going to be season 3, what we think will happen. But talking about the season finale, Homer finally remembers. Can we talk about that? He's in this elevator trapped with Nina. Prairie has become Nina, and she is just sassy, smoking the cigarettes, looking at the cameras, and she reconnects with Homer and goes in to hug him. They almost kiss, and it sparks back his memory of them being trapped together. And then when she touches the glass, of course, that sparks the memory. Homer eventually gets trapped in the elevator. But were you guys satisfied with that reveal? With Homer coming back into his own memory. It came a little late for me.
It came very late. I liked the way they set it up, though. I really liked that. They trapped him in there so he can't go and get her. But she does say, "You're smart. I should have listened to you earlier." So that makes me think, if she would have actually tapped into Nina earlier and not suppress her, would he have remembered sooner? So yeah, it was a little late for me, but I guess that's what might leave a cliffhanger into season 3, so we'll see.
We shall
I'm glad
see.
he finally remembered, though. That's what I am glad.
That was satisfying to have it happen at least in the season. It had to, I thought, to advance the story forward.
Yeah.
Erika.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think there were a few little cracks the last couple of episodes, and so finally he really kind of integrates. So, and it's interesting that he was the one person who, I guess, at the end of the day was a little bit of both. Once he kind of got his memories. So that was really interesting. And then, then the whole thing about him being trapped in the elevator and like the red light or whatever, like that was a little bit like, okay, did HAP trap you? Like, how do you know?
Get that either.
I didn't get that part, actually, like the whole trapping. Like, I get that he was trapped, but I was like, why can't you walk out the same way she walked out? Or is it stuck now? Like, whatever. So that part was a little bit, confusing. And, but yeah, like I like that he finally remembered and that it finally kind of came back to him, but he was still sort of, I like the fact that they made him the one that was integrated with that the last dimension and this dimension. That was cool.
But then does that mean Renetta remembered too? Do y'all think she remembered?
Yes, because she asked him, she said, are you Homer or Dr. Roberts? And he says both. And I think it's by her breaking him out of the elevator, she's validating his realization that he is Homer still and that he has been with her in another dimension and that he's with her now in this dimension. And in a way, I think, we talked about in other episodes how the OA taps into issues without hitting it on the head, like, sexuality, homosexuality, about, Buck's binding and what it means to be transgender. And so I thought for this, it was, without hitting it too hard, talking about compassion and forgiveness with Renata breaking Homer out of the elevator. Okay. A little deep, but that's kind of what I took out from it.
Yeah.
No one's with me.
I like the angle. I like the angle, but I just never got clarity from her.
Like from her, what I thought was she always knew but denied it, because my understanding from the earlier episodes was that she was buying into what the doctor was telling her, that like, no, you're really crazy, but she had those memories all along. So I just felt like once he admitted it, but then I think at the end she was grumpy, but she had kind of come around.
She was always grumpy, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I think once OA came and all that stuff, I felt like she kind of came around to not denying it anymore and accepting that she had jumped with the rest of them. So I wasn't that surprised about that particular scene.
Got you. All right, guys, we have to talk about HAP and his brain pool and then the robots. He is this master manipulator of situations to build his experiments. This was so creepy to me. His pool of like dead but not dead bodies, growing memories via flowers. Yeah. I just, if you guys are listening right now or watching us, I want to know in the comments what you think about this, because this is what Rachel saw that was so terrifying. We saw that in episode 2, and she just couldn't even handle it, and it led her to want to kill him. Prairie has a different viewpoint. At first, I think she's shocked. Then I think she has the same sort of, how disgusting is this? But it doesn't move into wanting to kill Hap. It moves into, I'm so sorry for you because you're such a sick person. Yeah. So we finally get this reveal in the season finale. Was it satisfying for you guys to see finally what Hap was up to? Did you guys, because I predicted it, but I didn't visually see it like this. Lauren.
I mean,
staring at the picture, guys.
I had so many questions when I saw this, because it's just, first of all, so many different flowers. Right. So does that mean that's all the dimensions that they have been to? And then on top of that, whenever Prairie, because she wasn't at first, but then she snapped into Prairie when she saw that the bodies were her friends. So that made me wonder, she saw everyone's body, but she got the most emotional when she saw Steve's.
Of course.
And I wondered, why? Because she saw everyone else, and she was like, you. But then she was like, Steve. And, it was just...
Well, I think in every dimension, Prairie has, a love interest. So I think in the...
So you think that was
I think
Steve.
In the first dimension, it's Steve. In the... Whatever came before the first dimension, where they were trapped, it's Homer. Okay. So dimension 0, and then in dimension 2,
it was Steve.
Wait, what did I just do to myself?
Okay, you did 0, 1, 2. My bad. Okay,
0, 1, 2.
It should be 1, 2, 3. But
in the second dimension, who's her love interest in the second? Oh no,
She doesn't have one.
I guess she doesn't really have one. It's kind of. Oh, it's still Homer, really. I mean, it's still Homer.
Yeah,
kind of,
she's trying to reconnect
she's trying to figure
with
it
him.
out. It's Ruskin and is her boyfriend in the dimension, but not really, because she's still Prairie. Yeah. So I do think it was seeing Steve in now this second dimension was drawing at her heartstrings for when she was OA/Prairie coming back home and meeting them.
Yeah, well, I definitely agree with her. Hap is crazy. Like, who would actually sit there and put these bodies into a pool of water and have, you know, trees and flowers growing out of them, and that's what he's eating? Like Erika said, like, you're disgusting. But then I just felt so bad for them because I'm like, are they alive? Are they dead? I
so many questions. So many questions.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So, yeah, I agree. It was so shocking. I think what surprised me most, because I thought initially, kind of as you did all along, that there were people in there or brains or something. But I was surprised how they tied it into all of the same students. So, because there was sort of like never any, other than Michelle being missing, there was never sort of any idea that, French jumped off of the building too, and because remember the other kid that kind of went crazy, he was just another actor or whatever. So that part I think was kind of surprising, and I agree with Lauren. Like, all of a sudden she was overly attached to Steve more than the others, more than French or Buck or whatever. And that was another thing I didn't understand is Buck and Michelle are both there. So that part kind of, I wasn't clear on that, because I was like, okay, well, he's sleeping as Buck, but Michelle is sleeping in the other room. Yeah. And so that part was a little bit, the Buck-Michelle thing was a little bit confusing, because it seems like Buck has an extra person. So I mean, I'm just saying.
What the Buck?
Right, exactly. What the Buck? How many Bucks do we have? So that was one thing that kind of threw me. Buck more so than the other people, because I was like, well, Buck is Michelle in this dimension, sleep, and Buck is here, sleep. And so, like, well, you know, where's the other? I don't know. There's like a missing Buck or too many Bucks. The attachment to Steve was interesting, but I didn't really think of it as a love interest, because really it's not until they jump at the end and he slicks his hair back that he remotely seems like age appropriate,
right?
Because before it's like he's still like preteen and you just old
in
woman.
high school.
So I was like, okay, well, you know, she just feels badly that everyone's there, I guess. I don't know, but that was interesting that that all the kids were there. And then, you know, obviously BA is not there, so.
Yeah, BA.
And with that, sorry about that. With that, it's just like, how did he get the bodies? Because Hap has actually never met the kids. So where did these bodies come from?
Well, I thought they must have came from, which they kind of left us open on that. I assumed that, kind of like with Michelle or with whoever, that all of these people, all the kids in this dimension were drawn to the house through the game. Because the house is supposedly what activates the growth. And so then once you, I don't know if he gets you, if you through the tunnel or through the water or however, he snatches you up from the house and puts you in this tank, is what I was thinking. But it's just interesting that they didn't show us. So
but
that we knew
that would only make sense for Hannah, aka Buck, because she played the game and we all saw.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, they didn't show us any of the other kids. They just told us that all these other males had gone crazy, and they just left it open. So we never knew that the people who had jumped or had, you know, done whatever were actually her friends in this dimension. Like, they never laid a clue to that. So that's interesting.
Right. All right, last up, we finally get to a new dimension. So dimension number 3. I cannot believe how many dimensions we're straddling now. I thought things were going to converge, but they now have butterflied. And so we see Hap uses these machines. Erika's not impressed by it, but I was.
I was impressed. I mean, I haven't seen any Transformer movies, but I'm sure they're impressive.
Look how big they are. How did he make them so quickly? There's so many questions, guys. It's like an engineering feat that they're all synced at the same time to do the movements, but whatever. We'll talk about that maybe next panel when we do season 3.
Ruskin has money. He just got Ruskin's money. But okay.
But we go in the third dimension, and we see at the end Steve meets Hap. So original dimension and our third dimension have converged. How did you feel as a viewer who loves the show, and to everyone listening and everyone watching, comment, let us know how you felt. How did you guys feel with Steve meeting Hap and Prairie, and now Prairie is Nina. Prairie is Brit, Brit Marling is the actress in real life, and now Hap is Jason Isaacs, who is her husband. And this new dimension, it's just like WTF. Quick thoughts, guys.
I loved it. I was so glad that they finally all come together and they can all be on one level playing field, aka one dimension. So I thought that was amazing, because Hap did kind of say something like, oh, you'll be there, but you won't believe it. Something like that. So now that Steve is there, I'm hoping that they can kind of get some resolution. Maybe he'll help Prairie remember and put all the pieces together so we can see everyone all in one dimension.
I hope so, because I cannot take it. I'm like, it is too much for me to
It's a lot of
categorize and file.
a lot of
We're going
characters.
deep into the dimensional world, and I am a little like, how many more can I take? You know,
Yeah.
Erika, what hit me?
Yeah, no, I really loved it. I mean, it was interesting that Homer gets shot, but then she's the one that's hurt and shot in the next dimension. So that was
Oh.
interesting because she's like floating up, and then, you know, Kareem sees her and it looks like, oh, I'm sorry. And then she like suddenly falls. And so it's like, okay. And then she's in, you know, the next dimension, but it's not clear like what happened to her. You know what I mean? Because she seems hurt or shot or something, but clearly it's a Hollywood studio. And then he sees Buck, but he calls her Michelle, I think. And then, you know, so that part's interesting. So the way they kind of rounded it up was cool. It's not clear kind of where, like, can Kareem go through that window or
Right.
not? I mean, there are a few things hanging, but it's interesting that she turned it around to Brit. You know, she became herself.
But
in
that,
season
yeah,
3.
that also means Buck will be in that dimension with them. So that's, 4 characters all in one dimension.
Well, Buck will be in Kareem's dimension.
no,
No,
I think
Michelle
Buck-
is in there, but Buck
Oh,
is still,
Buck is in
is still climbing up the stairs at the
Yes.
at the radio. At
Remember,
the
she
in
Hollywood.
third
walked,
dimension.
she walked in the studio. So 2 people from the
Yes.
old dimension and
Yeah.
2
The
people
original
from
dimension.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
I did not
mean-
even put that together. This is so exciting.
Yeah. But no, I mean, it made sense though, because I assumed that that's why, because I was like, okay, either they're going to bring Hap and her back to them. Like, they were doing the movement at the same time as the big robot. So, somebody else was probably going to jump. So it kind of made sense.
Wait, did it not cross anyone else's mind? Why didn't Prairie just run? Like, if she ran, would she still be transported to another dimension? Because I was like, why are you just standing there? Run.
She was
crossed-
Nina, and she
no,
was like bold and a
Nina-
badass,
right.
and like not
and
afraid.
Nina knows I can just walk outside of this circle. That's what I agree with you, Lauren. I'm like, why don't you just walk outside
That's
the circle?
what I'm like-
So I kind of...
Hey guys, this is Brian from the booth. I think she also didn't
Ooh,
run
hello.
because Homer. She
she
needed to move with Homer. She wanted to be with him, and he was going to die in that dimension, so she had to jump.
Right. Well, what,
Yes,
but,
Brie, you
wait.
were so right.
Although, Brie, I will say this. I think Lauren is correct prior to Homer showing up. Because remember, she was standing there talking to him for a minute while they were doing the little things. And I was like, why is she still standing there? But I agree with you totally. Like, once Homer came into it, she was
didn't
like,
wanna leave
she's
him
like, we have to
alone.
jump together and you have to find me. So I
Yes.
totally agree with Brie on that
It was
point.
very Romeo and Juliet.
That
like,
point
beautiful.
for sure. And then he, gets shot. But prior to Homer getting there, I was totally like, girl, just walk outside the circle.
I know.
You don't even have to run. You can walk away.
My only question is, this whole time it was only safe for BB-8 to go, and then BB-8, where are you? I thought she was the only one that was gonna cross, and we use her because she's the one that's connecting original dimension with new dimension. We haven't gotten to dimension 3
Right.
yet, and so we do use her as this sort of conduit.
Because she can
but
build a presence.
She didn't. Did she
in the
go?
room.
I'm like,
No.
only BB-8 can go.
No.
Hello.
But
No,
do we
she's
know?
still chickened out. She was
They did
scared.
the movements, though. They all did
So
the
they all
movements.
probably made it. We'll
So
talk about
they-
that in predictions.
Yeah.
Real quick, I want to get to my favorite topic, news and gossip, guys, with Lauren Hubbard. What you got for us today?
So, for news and gossip, we have Brit Marling on the Ellen Show.
Yay.
So, we actually get to hear a story of how she got kicked out of camp as a little girl. So at night, she would go in her bunk bed with all the other girls, but she would tell ghost stories. And she actually got kicked out because the other little girls were starting to wet the bed. So, she was clearly into stories and scary movies at such a young age. And then another thing, Zal, which is one of the main co-producers, he recently tweeted out a funny OA themed meme. You could see the booths. It's all the same place, but I think the same people, but just older. Like one is middle aged, one is old, and then one is super old. So I guess it's kind of like, what do you guys think of this meme?
I love that. That's kind of like my Monday every day. I'm like, oh, I'm here again, and I've done, not here at AfterBuzz. I mean, like in work and life, my day job. I'm like, oh, but we're back to Monday. So I
Yeah.
always think about that type of thing.
Yeah, I liked it. I
That's
liked
great.
that one a lot.
All right, and moving on to our special segment. We always talk about HAP and his weird experiments, so our girl Erika's got one in real life for you guys. Take it away. Oh, I love it.
All
Thank
right,
you,
so
Brie.
this is a more, I guess, a semi-positive, unethical human experiment. And this is the story of Henrietta Lacks. And there's a book about her, and the story has become famous now. But in 1955, Henrietta Lacks, a poor, uneducated African-American woman from Baltimore, was the unwitting source of cells which were then cultured for the purpose of medical research. Though researchers had tried to grow cells before, Henrietta's were the first successfully kept alive and cloned.
Wow.
Henrietta's cells, known as HeLa cells, have been instrumental in development of the polio vaccine, cancer research, age research, gene mapping, and countless other scientific endeavors. Henrietta, this is the part that is kind of crazy. Henrietta died penniless and was buried without a tombstone in a family cemetery for decades, until really, I want to say maybe the last 10 or so years. Her husband and 5 children were left in the dark about their wife and mother's amazing contribution to medicine.
Wow.
Dang, I always feel like women get the short end of the stick. There's all these male scientists using them for their goods and contributions, and then they never get.
How did her husband not know?
No one knew. She didn't know. No one ever knew. I think she went to the doctor, they took her cells, and just went to town and never said anything.
No,
forever.
she didn't sign that consent form.
No.
Never.
Well, hopefully she moved on to a better dimension where she got her money, honey.
Yes,
That's what I hope for
yes,
Henrietta.
yes.
What an amazing season of the OA. I personally think this was much better than season 1.
I agree.
Cinematography-wise, story-wise, the writing I thought was very strong and compelling. I love the 2 storylines with Kareem being involved. There were flaws and there were holes, but overall I was a really satisfied watcher and viewer, and I know a lot of our super fans out there really enjoyed it. What are your predictions? Is there going to be a season 3, and what do we want to see? I love this part.
Your
Predictions.
AfterBuzz TV.
Ooh, okay, so I definitely think there's going to be a season 3.
Why?
Just because, well, first of all, I don't know if you guys remember, but season 1 ended with Steve running after the ambulance too. And that's exactly how this season ended.
Love that tie-in.
I did like that a lot. But I definitely think there's going to be another season. Why else would Steve be like, hi, Hap? It's I know who you are and I'm going to expose you. And I'm interested to see, because now she's some Hollywood actress. And he's her husband. I don't know what he does. But is Buck an actor now too? So I'm interested to see where it goes. I don't know what's going to happen with the storyline, but I definitely think it's going to be a season 3. And I'm hoping that everyone can finally expose Hap and kill him, actually. I want him dead.
Oh, wow. Strong words from Lauren
He's
Hubbard.
so evil.
He is. Erika, I know you've got thoughts. I know. I can feel it.
Okay. So I definitely think there's going to be a season 3, primarily because I think she contracted for 5 seasons, and I think it's got decent ratings, and Netflix does what it wants to do anyway. So I do believe there's going to be a season 3. Hopefully we won't. I think, hopefully we'll get it before too long. I think she and Steve finally will become a love interest, because I feel like until Homer shows up, because hopefully Homer made it. And so Buck is there. I think it'll be interesting to see. I think pretty much I'm thinking everybody jumped. You know what I'm saying? If not from,
I hope so.
If not from, the first dimension, maybe the dimension where they were asleep in the tub still. Couldn't they have jumped from there and gotten out? I don't know. But hopefully everybody is there in the new dimension, and Kareem can just climb through the window. That's what I think.
Half season 1, I want to say season 1, the original people, half of them are dead. Rachel, Renetta, Renetta's not dead, but Rachel, Scott, yeah, they're dead.
Jesse. But it's confusing. I'm with Erika. Are they really dead, or are we going to see them again? What does it mean to die versus to jump?
I think
there's
Rachel
so many
is dead.
questions.
Well, this dimension, Rachel, like Prairie, is buried. So I think once you're buried, you can't come under.
But then she's in the mirror, and she's in the TV, and she's in electricity, so
That's
she's
true.
not really dead.
Her spirit,
Her
maybe.
spirit is alive.
is
So does that
alive,
mean
for
that
sure.
all of our spirits are alive and past our so-called deaths in whatever dimension we're in?
Yes, and I hope, Prairie in the OA, in my next dimension, that I am skinnier and thin.
I cannot.
and have a great,
I hope I'm rich.
Thank you, rich and
There you
skinny,
go.
and as soft skin. I mean, my skin's not bad now, but it could be.
It's no Nina Azarova, because she hasn't worked a day in her life, she says, and she has soft skin.
Exactly. So in my next dimension, I'm gonna be a lot skinnier for sure.
Well, I hope all of our friends from the original dimension make it to our third dimension so that I can stop being so like crazy in my head about these storylines and everything converges. Keep the conversation going. It has been so much fun, you guys, talking with you during this entire season, and I want to hear your predictions. And why don't you leave in the comments what you hope for your next dimension, if there is one. Where can we find you, ladies?
You can find me, Lauren Hubbard, on all social media at Lauren the Truth.
Hi, you guys. I'm Erika Edwards. You can follow me on all of my social media at Erika, E-R-I-K-A-D as in door, Edwards.
Yes, and I'm Anna K. Thomas. It has been such a pleasure to host for you guys and moderate this entire season of the OA. We love the show. We'll keep the conversation going in the comments, but we are signing off for now until season 3. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you in the next dimension. Bye, y'all.
guys.
Our founder, Kevin Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.